as a registered nurse, I nursed many people with intellectual disability in Palmerston because there was the big Kimberley hospital there, and felt that people who I nursed weren't actually having the right kind of support and care. I believed there was more to them than they were able to show or have in the way of support. So when we had our son with an intellectual disability and autism, my husband and I believed that we needed to support him as much as he could. We felt he was like a sponge, and we just put everything in, and then all of a sudden we'd have something out. And there were these moments of enlightenment when he did something that made us think, my goodness, what was that? How did he know to do that? One of the things was a little toy windmill which had a solar powered system, and we put it outside to get the sun for the windmill to go, and that was just great. He loved that, going round and round in circles. And then another day he brought it out to put on, and I remember saying, Rich, we can't, it's grey outside, it's not going to get the sun. And I went away to do something else and came back, and he'd put the light on it, and it was like, there, Mum, you haven't got it, I have. So we recognised there was so much more to him. So then we realised his passion was about tractors, because at 2 he never kissed us, but he kissed the tractor, and he was really passionate about that tractor. And so we realised that that was going to be something that would help him to grow his interest in machinery and in Technic Lego. And so we set that vision really when he was quite young, that he was a man who needed tools and machinery. And when we had the opportunity to do a path when he was about 18 years old with Garth Benny, when he was at a residential boarding school, it showed that we needed to think for the future of him being a man who would be on the land, who would have access to his tractor on a regular basis. And now we say he needs a tractor fix once a week, and we know that that works for Rich. It's something he's really passionate about and enjoys doing, and we've put in all the supports, and he's taught us he doesn't need anybody else to do the tractor driving. He needs somebody who understands tractors and how he likes working with them, and we've geared the ratios of the tractor down, which is stuff I don't really understand. My husband did that, so that he's safe and will only use the lower ratios to drive with, and it's flat land. And so he manages to mow the paddocks with the big mower behind the tractor of our little 2-acre lifestyle block. He also loves the digger on it, so we've started to plant Christmas trees, because the digger builds huge holes, and they're so big, and then you have to fill them in again and put this little Christmas tree to grow in the middle of this big hole. But it means their roots are so well supported that we hope we're going to have some Christmas trees for sale in a couple of years. So it was using the things that we knew he was interested in and seeing them as a key to who he was and what he liked doing. He loved swimming, so we knew that going for swims in hot pools was a really good social interaction for him, because he could also people watch, and being a guy, look at the girls and be very ordinary. So having the opportunity to lose individualised funding for him and setting him up in his own little home on our small block of land with support staff who really got to know him has worked amazingly well on his behalf, and also on the families, because for the first time I feel he's having a meaningful life, and he's actively involved, has good relationships with his mum, his dad, who actually has a severe brain injury, has good relationships with his sister and her partner, and is also now an uncle with 2 nieces. So there's lots of things going on in his life, and the support people he is with are amazing. There's a great team. When they go out and they've got a few moments, they might whiz home to their home and have a cup of tea with him. And he has a full life, what any of us would like to have. He doesn't have lots of holidays, but then nor do I. So we think it's working really well, and it's not something that would meet everybody's needs, and we're very rural based and quite different, quite unique, and I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to establish him on this block of land, which I know others don't have that opportunity. But I do believe that having the vision and keeping it solid, resetting it regularly, going back like a computer and resetting it back to that vision, and having that hope for him to continue having a really good life is really important. I'm trying to write the book. I'm not sure if the book is on Richard's life, my life, or the family, but the journey Richard has taken us on has been a huge learning curve for the whole family. Being a rural family and my husband's from Holland, there's been some really interesting issues that have come up for us. One of them is relationships, one of them is unemployment issues, on laws. We just learnt so much, and that's thanks to Richard. He's been our teacher, and he still is. He has an amazing sense of humour. He has an amazing amount of patience. He will use the words he has, and there are very few, mainly nouns. He has some words of his own that he's made up, his own vocabulary, and he will use gestures and to help us understand what he's trying to convey to us. And if it's too difficult, I know he compromises what he's saying and changes it to something that we can actually get, and he's very patient with us. But we would never have done any of this without the support of Imagine Better, and Lorna and the team from Voice Advocacy. We've done another 2 paths, and that's helped keep us on track. Now we have some challenges in the foreground for sustainability, for how do we make sure that if something happened to myself, that the service would stay in place for Richard for as long as he needs it. And that's our next challenge. I like to look at challenges and try to turn them into opportunities. I like to support families. I used to be on lots of voluntary organisations, but I now see what we need to do is support other families and let them hear our story, and if anything helps them and clicks for them, that they can use that, but they make their own story and get their own life with IF. Part of my dream is to have some better programs that are New Zealand based, because our son uses a lot of visual communication tools, and the apps that come are great, but they're not New Zealand words or flowers or fauna. And also to set up some software that will actually support families setting up in family governance roles using IF for their family member. Because it's a minefield with the different laws and regulations that come into play being an employer and having government funding, we've learnt by default in a very traumatic way how to do it, having been established for 8 years now with the support of Imagine Better. So there are things that I think we could make easier for other families if we had tick lists. I like tick lists, and little suggestions that they could look at to help them keep on track, make life a little less stressful. I think we started off with 43 policies for our land, which I needed to convert from residential care to a more individualised service. We probably don't need them, but for regulations you have them, and I say they're like underlay under the carpet. You got them there, if anybody wants them, they're there, but you don't need to use them, except when you're helping retrain new staff, like how to appropriately go out in a car, or some of the things that are more challenging for Richard. We do need that support so that you're complying with your employment laws, because to keep good staff you need to be a good employer, and I think it's right relationships that's the most important thing to establish. And to do that you need to have them able to have good information. So we employ staff. We believe asking the right questions gets the answers that we can tell where the person's coming from, and then we let them work for as long as they need to, doubling up with our other staff to get comfortable before they work with Richard on their own. The other thing we're very concerned with is that they then have some training on autism or anything that they want to, but not till they've got to know Richard, so that the training is for themselves and their professional development, but also is something that they can bring back and relate appropriately to Richard, who they're working with at that time. And that's cost effective, I believe.
What was you said you learned in traumatic ways. What was?
Alleged complaints of something happening, so huge investigations. I've had people take out personal grievances, and as a mum that's really scary. We've always recognised the importance of having an EMA, Employers and Manufacturers Association membership when you become an employer, because there's a 0800 number which is really helpful for instant advice, who also have access to slightly cheaper lawyers that way. Really good insurance, especially with our lad with challenging behaviours. It needed to be a better indemnity insurance than just a minimal insurance, so that people who work with them and property and Richard himself are safe. We're very geared to safety, and I think it's a really important thing for families who have people with challenging behaviours, that they have the support to put those structures in place so that you are limiting the risk factor